All right, folks, week 8 is almost in the books. A great game tonight between the Cowboys and 49ers, but what a day of football it was. I think the most exciting day of football we've had in a couple years. It seemed like every game came down to the wire, a lot of close finishes, and a couple games even came down to the last play. And there's a lot to talk about, but I'm going to start with the Jets. They are now sitting at 2-6. They're now 4.5 games back of the Bills. They're in last place in the AFC East, and I think their season is over. Today was a really bad loss versus a terrible Patriots team that lost their quarterback in the third quarter. And Aaron Rodgers is kind of out of people to blame. He got the head coach fired. He got Devontae Adams in town. And he kind of has to look in the mirror here because the Patriots had 250 yards of total offense, and they did not turn the ball over once, and they still walk away with a loss. And I don't know where they go from here, but their season is over, and I think this might be the end of Aaron Rodgers that, as we know it, and this might be the end of him in the NFL. Really confusing loss versus the Patriots. I thought they'd get it back on track today, and they did not. Number 2, huge win by the Eagles. I thought this was the best the Eagles have looked in 2 years since their Super Bowl season, and they played really well. And Jalen Hurts was fantastic today. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. He had a deep touchdown pass to A.J. Brown, and they were just fantastic. All week, I said that the Eagles' defense was terrible, and the first few drives, the Bengals threw it all over them, and I didn't think they were going to be able to stop them, but they got a stop on 4th and 1, and then after that, they pretty much held the Bengals in check, and I thought this was really good, a really good showing from the Eagles, and the best that they've looked in a year and a half, so it'll be really interesting to see what happens in the AFC East here. We'll see what happens with the Cowboys right now, but right now the Commanders are at 6-2, the Eagles are at 5-2, and they got 2 games versus each other coming up, so that'll be exciting. Number 3, the Ravens really struggled today versus the Browns, and that was pretty confusing as well. It just seemed like the Browns, early on, they get down 4th and goal, and they get stopped inside the 10, and they just could never quite get it going today. And I thought the Browns' defense was really good, and who would have guessed it, but Deshaun Watson got hurt, and the Browns play their best game of the season. And not a great look for Deshaun, but today the Ravens lose, and I think it's a costly loss because now they're 3 games back of the Chiefs for that 1 seed. I think the Ravens would really like to have home field advantage in that first round bye, and it doesn't look very likely right now. So pretty costly loss by the Ravens. Number 4, the Colts. We are pleading to put Joe Flacco in at quarterback. Right now, Anthony Richardson is just bad. That Colts team should have beaten the Texans to take over first place in the AFC South today, and Anthony Richardson just let them down. At one point today, he was 2 for 11, and one of his passes was to a wide-open receiver who didn't have anyone within 40 yards of him. And right now, like I said, 3 weeks in a row, they're just a lot better with Joe Flacco. And if it weren't for Anthony Richardson, they would have won that game and they'd be sitting in first place right now. I think a lot of their team is sitting there looking like, what the heck are we doing? This is not the right path. And right now, Anthony Richardson is sitting at 44% completion percentage for the season. And that's not going to win a lot of games. That is about as bad as it gets. And as a Colts fan, please put Joe Flacco in because right now, Anthony Richardson is probably the worst quarterback in the NFL. And then number 5, the Commanders went on a Hail Mary, last play of the game, and I think it's a little bit of karma for the Bears. The Bears, with 5 minutes left in the game, called one of the worst play calls I have seen in years in the NFL. The Bears were down by 5. They are sitting there on the 2-yard line. It's 3rd and goal from the 2-yard line. And what do? They hand it to a backup offensive lineman who very predictably fumbles the ball. The Commanders pick it up. And then on the next drive, they're still down by 5. They run Caleb Williams up the middle twice in a row, and then they get bailed out by a terrible pass interference call to put them up 1st and goal, and the Bears score from there. I thought it was karma, the Commanders connecting on that Hail Mary because of the terrible coaching, the terrible play calling, and I did not know what the Bears were doing all day long. Their play calling was terrible, their blocking was terrible, and Caleb Williams, I thought, looked pretty darn bad for most of the day. So that's what I had today. There's a lot of other games that were close that I didn't get to, but great day of football, and we'll see what happens between the Cowboys and Niners tonight.